Good Thursday afternoon. Welcome to a football show brought to you by Sinkers Beverages and the Kingston Group, two great local companies here in Nashville that will take care of you. They'll give you booze and they'll fix your house. Pretty good combination here.
A pretty damn good combination, because you don't have to do anything. You just sit there with your booze in a lawn chair or sofa or something and just watch people work.
Yep. And they'll do it all and they'll take care of you. And again, Sinkers will even send you the booze right to your house if you search Uber Eats Sinkers Beverages.
Hey, they drive so you can drink.
There you have it. Bluegrass Beverages.
Listen, Sinkers Beverages, Uber Eats, keeping you out of jail.
That's
saving
true.
lives and keeping you out of jail.
There's no question about that. If former Titans offensive coordinators learn their lesson,
yes.
They could use Uber to get around town. Okay. Anyway, welcome to the show. Already in progress. Jump into the comments, of course. Zach Lyons, Braden Gall here, hanging out. And I will say this: normally we don't do this, but maybe I should. If you would like to, if you're watching this on Twitter, Facebook, if you're watching this on Broadway Sports Media, if you're listening to this on the podcast app, come on over to the 440 Sports YouTube page. We're a couple away from an important milestone, so we need you to come on over and hit that little subscribe button and come hang out. We know more of you guys are watching, and we really appreciate it. It's awesome to see. It means a lot to both of us to sort of watch all of the products here take some root with you Titans fans, and we love all you guys for hanging out with us. So thanks to Sinkers Beverages and Kingston Group for making it happen. StackingTheInbox.com, Football and Other F Words, all our great other shows across the 440 Sports Network. So I don't know why. I am really excited about today's show. I don't know why.
Man, you are glowing. You're absolutely you are. I think you're sweating a little bit. You're so excited.
Not yet. That comes later on, and I don't have the fan on, so I'm gonna have to turn the fan on some point during the middle of the show. So I'm excited because I want to number one in the NFL. We have a Titans offense that finally feels like it's doing the things that we've been asking them to do for years. And we got 1 week of really incredible data on it. Week one was a liar, but Tannehill admitted he was kind of the problem, and it looked like he obviously had his career high completion percentage the next week. So I assume somewhere in the middle is what you should expect. But we've seen 2 weeks of creativity and first down passing and all this fun stuff that we've asked for from the offense. I just want to see what the next step is. And this is a big challenge, a really good Cleveland defense. In the SEC, we have no freaking clue who's great.
I feel like this Cleveland defense is like the Chris Hubbard of defenses in the NFL.
Okay, we'll get to that. I think it's a great weekend of football. I think there's an opportunity for the Titans to be ahead of the 2-4 record that I predicted, because if they go up there and beat Cleveland over the weekend, then I think with the Colts game still looming, there's a chance for them to be 3-3, if not better than that.
The Bengals game. I mean, Joe Burrow may not even be available. There's talks of him that he could possibly go on IR. And then, traveling to London, Lamar Jackson, he's already lost Odell for a couple of games. And what is this Ravens team actually? Because I feel like the Ravens and the Browns have one thing in common. They got to play the shitty Bengals.
Yeah, the bad Bengals. Yeah,
the bad Bengals.
Before Burrow gets healthy and they figure it all out. And everything.
Which may be too late for this season, by the way. And by the time they figure it out, you never know.
That might be true. Listen, I'm picking the Ravens to win the division. I did that in the summertime. So Kevin, welcome to the show live. We do appreciate you coming, hanging out. Again, subscribe to the 440 Sports YouTube page. We really appreciate it. Tell one of your friends to subscribe to this. We got previews for all kinds of college football games. You got Football and Other F Words up there. You got the Hot Read podcast. You got so much football content geared towards Tennesseans, SEC fans, and Titans fans. We really appreciate your support. So go give us a subscribe. I just can't the SEC weekend is awesome. The NFL weekend is great. I think the Titans have a chance to pull an upset on the road. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But you know what? I don't know. It's a wonderful time to be alive, Zach. That's all.
Yeah, can't disagree.
So part of my let's get right into the matchup here, of course, because there's so much to discuss with this Titans-Browns game that I find utterly fascinating. We will get to Deshaun Watson, of course, not being a good quarterback since, sexually assaulting 22 people. Basically, since that moment, he has not been a good quarterback. The Titans have been very lucky in their rushing defense opponent. They missed Alvin Kamara. They missed Austin Eckler. Now they're going to miss Nick Chubb, which is very interesting. Just as a point of fact. You've got special teams that seem to be better than they've been in a long time. The offense is creative.
The King is better than everything else. Still stinks.
Well, I'm going to ask you about special teams. So these are all the things I want to ask you about: first down passing, trench warfare, the offensive line, the usage of the weapons on offense. I got so much stuff I want to ask you. So I want to start with, how much do you put into the short week, the rest, the emotion, the injury to Nick Chubb? I thought Jerome Ford, by the way, was a big-time recruit who went to Alabama. He then transferred from Alabama, went to Cincinnati, and was very, very good, and he was good on Monday night. How much do you think it matters, the short week packaged with a pretty emotional game against Pittsburgh where you lose your star and a really disgusting injury? How much of that is a factor this weekend?
I think it depends on the player in the locker room. Probably not a big factor for Myles Garrett, but probably a really big factor for Deshaun Watson, who's already not mentally there. He's just he's got a blank, stare on his face. He's all up in his head. The outside noise is getting to him. He seems to be someone that would short week, bad game, 2 turnovers that turned into touchdowns for the other team. Just so much going on.
Yeah.
In Deshaun Watson's head. This seems like it would affect him. It's not good, obviously, for a team to see an injury and a comrade go down like that. But it's also in the NFL, most players have preached, you have to have a short memory. You have to move on. There's a difference between have to and actually doing so. But I feel like most players they know, right? They know this is part of the game, and probably have seen similar injuries that have happened throughout their college career to the professional career, depending on who they are. So I don't think it's a factor for everybody in the locker room, but I definitely think the performance from the offensive performance on Monday night and the previous week, that is weighing heavily on a team that is just kind of skating by.
Yeah. So you said you called him his comrade. So does that make Deshaun Watson a Russian communist as well as a serial assaulter?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good. That's good.
I'll let you slander Deshaun Watson and put on any label, true or not.
All you have to say on a podcast to get away with it legally is just say, I believe he's a Russian spy. I believe he's a sexual serial assaulter. I believe he's played some shitty ass football since getting accused of all of those things.
Yeah.
In 2 games, now I know they beat Cincinnati in week 1. In 2 games, 55% completion percentage, less than 200 yards per game, 69 quarterback rating, 2 total touchdowns. The Browns offense has turned the ball over 6 times, 5.6 yards per attempt. He's just not
including
last
last year's stats, right?
That's just in 2 games.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You add in, since he's become a Brown, and because this is technically, he's now played 8 games, if I'm not mistaken. So he's played half a season, right? And then, there is a big break in between that, but he's definitely played half a season.
Sure.
And he's been just absolutely garbage. And it gives me life. It's like a UT loss in the swamp. It just nurses the soul.
It's like losing to Ole Miss at home in Tuscaloosa, just nurses the soul.
And it's also great for the fact, not only is a horrible human getting what he deserves, and a franchise that paid a horrible human getting what they deserve, and a fan base that continue to support a horrible human getting what they deserve, but it's also the national media who is already, after a year, just washing all the sins away of Deshaun Watson and picking this team to be Super Bowl dark horses.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, did you not even watch football? Everybody, here's the thing. Good Deshaun Watson was 3 freaking years ago. Good Deshaun Watson, near elite Deshaun Watson is not coming back. It's just a state of the fact. It's not coming back.
Yeah.
And people got to realize that and quit clinging. Sometimes recency bias is a good thing, but also sometimes taking into account that something was 3 years ago. It's like people who keep saying, well, Lamar Jackson was MVP, unanimous MVP. Okay, that was 2019. We're in 2023. Let's get real.
No, I agree. And Stoney backs you up there. Jordan Pace, interesting question. The 1-1 start to 2023 being more like 2021 versus last year is an interesting discussion. Mm-hmm. The Chargers win is so similar to the win at Seattle. That was the Julio Jones game, of course, in overtime. Big plays on both sides, but a comeback and game winner from a veteran kicker. What do you think about that? I think that's an interesting point to make when you compare the 1-1 start, because I think there's a lot of things to really like about this team. And I still think there are some questions that we had in the summer that I still have today after 2 games, in particular the offensive line. But like, I think there's a lot. Part of the reason I'm in a good mood is I'm just like, I think there's more reasons for optimism.
Look at you.
Well, but here's the other thing. I think we are in a year, and maybe you and I have talked about this. I don't remember because I do a lot of shows. But I think we are in a defensive year in the NFL and in college football. Some of that in college football is the offensive lines are bad, the quarterbacks are bad. But I think defenses have had 8 years to study RPO, this stuff that's been very prevalent in college football and pro football for the last 10 years. And I think we're seeing like a lot of these star quarterbacks in the NFL are struggling. And if you are built like the Titans, that's a good year. If you're going to play a bunch of rock fights, Titans are pretty comfortable in a rock fight. And I think this weekend is going to be a big old massive rock fight.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I had this weird feeling that I think the Titans aren't going to be in a rock fight. And like I can see why people think that because of the Browns defense and what it has shown, and quite frankly, what the Titans offensive line has shown. But for whatever reason, I just have this sneaking suspicion that like the Browns defense is kind of a mirage. And I'd like to dive into this just real quick and I'm going to try not to go stat heavy too much. But when they're on defense, when Cleveland is on defense last year, they were 25th in overall EPA. They are now second. That seems like a mirage. They were 32nd in rush EPA. Now they're 7th. That seems like a mirage to me. That seems like something that like that's the benefit of the schedule. Now you can only play who's on your schedule. But when you jump from overall success rate allowed, you go from 22nd worst to number 1 in a span of a year.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem, and all they really added was Dalvin Tomlinson. Like they didn't add anybody really big. And to me, it seems like the benefit of playing the Bengals and the Steelers more than it is that the defense is really good. Now, maybe Schwartz is that good, but it seems to me this could be a little bit of a mirage that everybody needs to take notice of.
Couple questions. AVing says, no one in the national media watches football. I am convinced. As someone in the national media, here's what I would say. And because he said, they literally said this week the Titans have a bad rushing defense. Here's what I would say. As someone in the national media, I don't watch any of that stuff. I don't consume any of that stuff. If you care about the Titans, you listen to Zach, and you listen to Mike, and you listen to me, and you listen to PK, and you listen to the stuff that's here at practice covering the team every day. I don't get sucked in. Don't take the bait. We've covered that way too many times. So I'm not calling you out, AVing. I'm just saying that's an observation there. Ed says, can they deploy an 8-man front on offense to keep Tannehill alive as we build our win? Brought to you by the Kingston Group. We will explain what their offensive strategy should be. Tim says, sounds like a perfect year for exotic smash mouth. Yes, that might be true. Here's what I will say about the Browns defense. And I think Mike Vrabel said this at his press conference. 25 snaps so far in 2 games on defense in which the opponent was in 2nd and 8 or longer, which means they, in 25 first down snaps, they have won that down. And what do we know about the Titans' new offense under Tim Kelly? They have a 13+% change in run-pass balance on first down. They are a 50-50 team.
And they're really good on first down.
They're 50-50 right now. That number was 63% run under Todd Downing. That's a 13% change in the number of times they are throwing the football on first down. Something you and everyone else, not in the national media, in the local media, has been saying. But the Browns have been dominant on first down. So you can, I'm not saying that your point about, Kenny Pickett and maybe, bum-ankled Joe Burrow, the conditions, that's all true. It doesn't change the fact that I think the point of their success comes from holding you to 2 or less yards on first down 25 times in 2 games. Think about how many first downs you have in a game. That's almost all of them.
Yeah.
So it is going to come down to the Titans' game plan on first down versus the Cleveland Browns win rate on first down. I think that's where I think it's a rock fight, because we got 2 things right now that I think are both very solid.
Yeah, to me, it's there's ways to beat this defense that nobody has tested yet. If you look at the Bengals and look at the Steelers, now this is something that I'm kind of flipping on from Football and Other F Words.
Just from yesterday?
Just from yesterday, because I've looked at some advanced stats. So
don't you know it's 2023? You're not allowed to change your opinion.
No, that. So I was looking at yesterday, and I was like, I don't know if they're going to use a lot of play action because you don't really want your back turned to Myles Garrett, right? So here's what I found out, is that the Steelers only used play action 5 times.
How many
Cincinnati Bengals.
Do you know how many dropbacks by any chance?
That is, hold on. I have it written down. I just have 15.6%.
No, that's not very many. Yeah.
No. So 18.2% of the Bengals dropbacks, which is 11, were play action. I want to dive into what Myles Garrett does on play action. When he's lined up over on the left side, lined up over the left tackle, interesting stat, doesn't matter if it's play action or not, he has 0 sacks over on that side. His lone sack come on a 4th down play against the Bengals over on the right side, lined up over the right tackle, which I just thought was just incidental. Like, when you think about the Bengals highlight,
what was that word?
It doesn't matter. When you think about the Bengals highlights, you remember that he's like putting the ball in between his legs and all that kind of stuff. So you're thinking, if you're not watching the game and you don't go back and look at the stats, I left that highlight in an impression with, well, he's probably got like 2 or 3 sacks on the Bengals, and he came away with just 1. Now he's got a lot of pressures because sacks aren't everything. If I just thought it was an interesting thing.
And remember, that clip you're talking about he was head up on the center.
Yeah,
which again is just part of how they use him in a very creative way, which was going to be one of my questions, because I want to talk play action as well. And so the Titans were 7 of 9 for 168 yards on play action. Tannehill had 24 pass attempts, probably a few more. What do you have? A couple sacks, so probably like 28 dropbacks, maybe, give or take, maybe 30. So they're running at about 30% clip.
It was like 31%, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so about 1/3 of the time they're running play action. So they're clearly running it more than both Pittsburgh and Cincinnati did against Cleveland. And I'm interested in what led to your change, because
I was trying to get to there. You
cut
me off.
Well, we're just having a conversation.
Well, here's what led to my change is the fact that on play action plays, he only has one when he's lined up over the left side. So that's Dan Moore, who is probably a worse left tackle than Andre Dillard. I bet any Pittsburgh fan would agree. And then who's the left tackle over in the Bengals? I'm not entirely sure who that is over there, but he had a field day too. But either way, he's lined up 39 times over the left tackle and left guards, but specifically the left tackle, right? On play action plays, which he's only been tested 8 times when he's lined up over the left tackle, 8 times. So we're talking about 50% of the play action plays he's seen, he's lined up over on the left side.
Okay.
One pressure, 0 sacks, just 1 pressure, and that's a QB hurry, not even a QB hit. So now I've changed my mind into thinking the Titans really thrive off play action, and now I'm not necessarily afraid that that Tannehill puts his back towards him, that it's something bad is automatically going to happen. Not to say that he won't affect plays.
Sure.
Not to say that he won't get his, because listen, he's on a drought. He hasn't gotten a sack over on the left side, and he's only got 1 sack through 2 games. He's going to get some sacks. He's going to eat. He's going to get his, I feel like. But I think play action will neutralize the entire defense that Tim Kelly talked about that has speed. And the entire defense has speed. And I think play action is going to give you half a second longer than what you would have. And that half a second matters. So I've changed my mind.
Interesting. I went into this conversation thinking, because I listened to Football and Other Efforts religiously, like everyone else should, of course.
Yes.
And I heard you say that, and I had written down the number of times that the Titans ran play action. Now, again, 7 of 9, 168 yards. Well, like 70 plus 49 of them came on 2 plays. But I think it's when they used them, how they used them, and of course they went basically max protect on both of those big plays. So if you're going to give him, a tight end or a back or even slide Dylan Radins out there, who I assume, of course, because Skoronski's going to be out again, and Dylan Radins clearly was the best option at left guard. It might might be a better option than Andre Dillard at left tackle. I think what's interesting is if you're going to go max protect, I don't care, especially on first down. You're trying to catch them, maybe creep it up to the line of scrimmage, and you want to turn the back. That's fine. I do think because I feel more that this is going to be more of a rock fight, more of a like 17-12, 22-19 kind of game, like a couple of touchdowns total here, and maybe a defense makes a huge play to put the ball down inside the 10 or 5 yard line for either team. That I think you could see a more conservative game plan from the Titans offense, just a little bit more careful. You're on the road. I think you're starting to see film on the Titans offensive line a little bit more. You're starting to see the shots taken by Tim Kelly. So that's on tape now, and they're going to adjust to that. And I think they can put, here's the other question about Garrett. Where obviously you attack Dillard, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him attack Aaron Brewer a lot. And he could overpower Aaron Brewer.
Well, that's what Stoney has put in the comments as well, and that's what his concern is.
Who said that first? Did he do that? Did he beat me to it?
Yeah, he beat you to it. Daniel Brunskill is right there. Dylan Radins is right there. I know neither of those guys are world beaters or whatever, but I feel like the better matchup if I was Jim Schwartz would be just letting Dalvin Tomlinson bully his way through Aaron Brewer. I don't know if you necessarily want to move Myles Garrett around, but if he's not getting any pressure, which he's going to, right? Like we saw Joey Bosa on 19 snaps get 15 pressures. It was ridiculous. So I think it's almost like a keep it simple, stupid kind of deal for the Browns is okay, Dalvin Tomlinson, advantage to him over Aaron Brewer, more than likely. Size, strength, power, something that Aaron Brewer does tend to struggle with. And then Myles Garrett, who is lined up over Aaron Brewer, who just struggles in general. And I don't think you have to swap it around. Zadarius Smith, I'd be running over to his side on all run plays over to the right. Basically, I think you need to be going to the right side. Here's the thing about this whole Browns defense, and they got to play. Let me just talk about the Steelers offense. This vaunted Steelers offense that everybody thought was going to be really big because, they played in the preseason. Man, they look good in the preseason. 19.6 yards per drive. Worst in the NFL. These are all worse marks than the Titans last year, by the way. 8 offensive points per game. Worst in the NFL. 0.4 points per minute of possession. Also worst in the NFL. Now, this is 2 games, right? So this isn't just because they played the Browns. This is 2 games back-to-back where the Steelers just look horrendous. And I'm sure if I looked up the stats for the Bengals, they'd be pretty close, the same way. And the Bengals, again, go around and face another team, and they looked bad then too. I don't think it's about the Browns as much as it is about these offenses that they're facing.
I think they have some athletes.
I'm not denying that, I think that I'm not scared of their secondary. I think Myles Garrett is great. I think Dalvin Tomlinson is great, and I think Zadarius Smith is pretty good. Other than that, I'm not really scared of anybody. I don't think they have anybody that is a terror for 8 other players.
Ed, I want to ask you. I'm going to answer your question, Ed, in just a second. And by the way, for the record, I asked that question about Aaron Brewer. I did not see Stoney's comment, for the record. So I like it when we're all in a mind meld together. I don't think. I think the difference, and I think you guys said this as well with Herndon, I think the difference between the athletes for Cleveland and the athletes for the Chargers is I think they have a good scheme and good coaching with Jim Schwartz, and I don't trust the Chargers' entire coaching staff to sort of put everybody in the right places. Justin Herbert makes up for a lot of that, and the secondary for the Titans, and we'll get to that matchup, which is a different side of the game.
Do you think that because it's Jim Schwartz's defense that the Tennessee Titans actually have the advantage? Because a lot of conversation has been, well, Jim Schwartz knows how to attack this offense. Well, this is entirely different. I mean, Jim Schwartz knows how to attack every offense. Okay, let's first off say that. Second off, I don't think there's an advantage because it's an entirely different offense with entirely different verbiage. All this stuff that's different. The philosophy is different. But Jim Schwartz's defenses don't really change too much. The talent may be better or maybe faster. But Tim Kelly, Mike Vrabel, and Shane Bowen should know how to attack this offense, right? This seems like a week where Vrabel is in the offensive room helping them know how to attack.
Yeah, I actually think it works for both teams, honestly, and I think it's why I think it's a wash. I think it because like the knowledge between these two teams going back to Houston is incredible. Like Schwartz knows the Titans know Schwartz. Kelly and Vrabel know Watson knows Kelly and Vrabel. Like it just there's a lot of like knowledge that's
Kelly, Vrabel, Pat, Charles London, and Shane Bowen, because he was over in the Texans at some point too. I mean, there's just a lot of people that know Deshaun Watson.
All right, so quickly here as we build the game plan, and we'll switch to the other side of the ball here in just a second. Brought to you, of course, by Sinkers Beverages and the Kingston Group. Ed asks, who's got more of the edge? Titans O versus Browns D. Titans D versus Browns O, and I'll be very quick on this. I think both defenses have the edge, which is why I like the rock fight. I think that Schwartz knows how to take his elite weapon, Myles Garrett, and make him and maximize him the way the Chargers maybe could have maximized Bosa a little bit more and some of the other pieces. I just think they're going to maximize that, and I think you go in there with a conservative game plan. I think that the defenses for both teams I think are better than the offenses that they're facing. And that to me says tough sledding, lots of second and long, lots of third and long, lots of punting. Special teams are going to be critical. So I think I don't know. I just think it's again, I'm 19-14 or something weird, where one team wins with a weird number. So where do you fall on the question?
I think that the Browns O is so much worse than the Titans offense. And I feel like the Titans defense and the Browns defense are very similar in level of success that I think the Titans, if there's one, it's an or. So I'm going Titans D versus Brown O over the other way around because I just don't have faith in I don't like Kevin Stefanski as a coach. I think I don't think he's a very good head coach. I don't think Deshaun Watson's a very good quarterback or person. And I look at the running back situation now. I wasn't really scared of Nick Chubb anyway because the Titans' run defense is just that good. Like he may get like 90 yards right on the ground, but he's not going to get 100 or something like that. They're probably going to stop him when they get into the end zone or the red zone. But I'm not scared of Jerome Ford. That does not mean that you just like abandon the run. But I look at the sacks that have come, and Warren Sharp put the stat out. Did I bookmark that? Because I sure didn't. Because I'm an idiot.
Let me while you look for that real quick. The Browns have run for 404 yards in 2 games.
Yeah,
that's
really good sign for Derrick Henry when he faces the Ravens or faces the Steelers and the Browns.
Obviously, no Nick Chubb. I do think Jerome Ford's pretty good, but I agree. Are we officially switching to the other matchup, like to the Titans defense here? Is there anything else you want to add to the Titans offense before we switch?
No, I just think play action. I don't care. I think I'm coming around to Tim Kelly's idea that like I don't really care about snap counts and splits for Derrick Henry and Tyjae Spears. I just want what's smart. So it may change week to week. Like week 1, Derrick Henry should have got more. Week 2, I thought it was a pretty good split. I think I would rather have Tyjae Spears get a little bit more rushing attempts, but I'm going to be fluid about it. But doesn't mean I can't be critical.
Yeah. I think this is the one thing I noticed about just as an aside based on what you just said. Burks is leading all offensive skill players in snaps with 99, which is about almost 80% of the snaps. Chig is number 2. NWI is number 3. Hopkins is number 4. Henry is 5th in offensive snaps amongst all skill players. So that's tight ends, receivers, and running backs. Then you have Wesco with 65 snaps. Spears with 58 snaps. Chris Moore, Josh Wiley, Julius Chestnut. And my first thought was, if you've got enough different pieces that Derrick Henry and Tyjae Spears are 5th and 7th on your usage list of offensive playmakers, you're in a pretty different spot than Titans fans have been in a while. So that's my first.
That's without Kyle Phillips.
Like, and that's without
Kyle Phillips is just 2 more games away, right? Like it's just 2 more weeks.
Gotta one of my last points on the offense, you got to get rid of the pre-snap penalties. They've got to fix that problem.
That's been a problem for a year and a half now, and I'm getting a little concerned about it.
Vrabel harped on it all week. Everything he was saying was tying into down and distance. And you cannot be taking false starts, the holdings, but definitely the pre-snap stuff. You can't have those problems. So I think neutralizing
they're terrible on second down. You got to quit putting yourself in worse second down positions with first down penalties or second down penalties.
70% of their passing offenses come on first down, which is amazing. But it also means you need to be better on second down. To your point. So, all right. So that I think a healthy sort of fluid balance between Henry and Spears. I'm okay with how they're using the receivers. And yes, I am NWI's biggest fan. You are correct about that. Chig was more involved in the offense last week. I expect to see another layer of Tim Kelly's offense this week. I think it's going
and the renaissance continues.
And that's the last piece of this, which is I assume we're going to get the same five. I think if you want to hear a longer conversation about the future of the offensive line and what could happen in a couple of weeks or as the season goes along, if Dillard can't play well, go check out Football and Other F Words. Neutralize Garrett. I think it's quick passing game, play conservatively. Yes. Continue to mix up the offensive snaps. And
I would do a lot of play action out of shotgun.
I like that too.
That keeps everything in front of you. That keeps Tyjae Spears involved as well, just in case he wants to go on a wheel route. If you got screens would be another good way to attack this Cleveland defense, by the way. Only 9.1% for I didn't circle my damn numbers. I think it's 9.1% of the screens they've seen over the last 2 weeks. So increase your screen usage, increase your play action usage. Do a lot of that out of shotgun, and I think you're saving yourself a lot of hurt.
It is the Spears, Henry, shotgun, Chig, Burks, pre-snap motion, creative play calls, creative design, out of the backfield, over the middle. That's how you can stop. That's how you can neutralize Garrett with scheme. So and we've seen more of that.
That's what it's going to take. You cannot rely on personnel alone to neutralize Garrett. You're going to have to scheme ways around it. So I trust that Tim Kelly can do that.
You think the Renaissance is continuing? Is he working his way into starting left tackle territory? Is that what I'm hearing?
I don't know if he's doing that, but I do know that Skoronski may be able to take a little bit of time to fully heal.
Yep.
I'm just saying that. I don't know. It's looking pretty good.
We said this on Monday. Radins being where he is and how stable the offensive line was immediately is a huge. You're telling me why am I optimistic? Radins is a big part of it's Tim Kelly and Dylan Radins of all people. That's me optimistic. All right, so let's switch over to the defense and here's my I'm going to start with this because we know how good the Titans rushing defense is. 8 straight games without allowing a team to go over 100 yards. The Browns are over 402 games. Is this the best interior offensive line that they've faced to date? Is it the best offensive line that they've faced to date? Ethan Pochich out of Michigan, big-time recruit. Wyatt Teller, Joel Bitonio, really good interior group that, is not going to be there's very few teams that can line up and go against Simmons and Tart and or whoever else is rotating in and actually kind of, hold their own against those guys. I'm not saying they're going to run for yards, but I think they can hold their own. And is this the best group that they've seen?
It's the best offensive line. Yeah, I guess I would say that they've seen. I don't know. I mean, the scheme for Kellen Moore on week 1, if Austin Eckler was healthy and Nick Chubb were healthy, then I don't know. I think they're seeing the same. This is the best offensive line. Not sure if it's the best scheme that they've seen, but I think it's the best offensive line that they've seen. It's definitely the
worst quarterback.
Yeah. Derek Carr is pretty bad. Everybody's praising Derek Carr week 1, but he looked pretty bad last week. Worst quarterback, second worst wide receivers, I guess, or I guess the middle of the pack in the wide receivers. I think Chargers had the best, I would say. Yeah, I would say right now that the Browns wide receivers are better than the Saints wide receivers.
I mean, Elijah Moore's not been anything special. Cooper's back, of course, and that's a dangerous weapon. I think the guy to watch out for is David Njoku. I think their tight end, he's a mismatch for almost every defense,
but
and
he's hardly ever used.
I don't understand it either. I don't understand it. I think, but Elijah Molden's been on the field for like every snap, and is extremely versatile, and they're using him in a lot of different ways. There's a lot of open. Here's the other thing. There's a lot of open space. They've given up a lot of chunk plays in the middle of the field. That was Keenan Allen. Other than that one down the sideline and the touchdown, he was feasting over the middle. They threw to tight ends. The Saints did the same thing with Olave. I would be concerned about attacking the middle of the field and the middle of the defense, and that would be my concern. Is again Watson taking the ball out of Watson's hands, right? Like quick short passes over the middle and letting the people do the work and not Watson, and making it easier for him would be something that I would watch out for.
Well, here's the good thing about facing this team. We know that the Tennessee Titans do not like to blitz, right? Their thing is that we want to send 4 at you when you pass the ball. The Cleveland Browns right now tied for 7th in most pressures given up when the other team does not blitz.
Ah, okay.
So that is really good for this Tennessee Titans defense, and why I think they have the advantage when we were talking about Ed's question earlier. That's one of the advantages I was considering, because way down the list is Tennessee, who is tied with Philadelphia, which is kind of good company sometimes to be with when you're with the Philadelphia and terms.
You're talking about the amount of times that they blitz on defense.
Yeah. Well, but the amount of times that your quarterback is under pressure. So like, Deshaun Watson is seeing a lot of pressure on four-man rushes or less, right? So not blitzes.
Gotcha.
It's really good that Tennessee, on the other hand, is tied with Jalen Hurts in that kind of a stat and that Philadelphia offensive line stat. But to me, when you're talking about pressuring, Pittsburgh has only blitzed like 20% of the time, and that defense was really successful against the Browns in most cases. And I feel like this team is a little bit more well-rounded than the Steelers' defenses. So I feel like when you look at this team and look at this offense and how to attack, it really lines up well with what the Titans like to do. Like, it lines up perfectly.
And Jeffrey Simmons talked about this. Like, they are studying and watching and are very aware of Deshaun Watson's and how he carries the football, which is he's had 3 fumbles already, 2 interceptions. The Titans have to create some havoc plays and some turnovers, but that they are studying. Like, I mean, he's always, his entire career, he's carried the football like out here. Like, he's always carrying it like this when he runs. And so they're very,
you know what? They're hidden advantage. Okay, well, I'm gonna let you finish because I got a hidden advantage that just came up, and it doesn't kind of ties, but doesn't tie.
You're too excited. I might just need to stop. Like, you're like, no, I just think that my point is that they've studied it, they've seen it, they've looked at it, they know it, and they're going to go after the football. And because again, Ed said, look, the Titans need to create some turnovers. They have not really. They've actually, like, they haven't. There's not been a lot of turnovers on either side for the Titans, which I'm okay with. But the Browns are the opposite of that. 6 turnovers in 2 games. A lot of that's on Watson, and I think they know they can go out there and take advantage of the sloppy ball handling and the decision making. So now
I agree with Ed, by the way, as well, that they need to walk away with some turnovers. Like the Tennessee Titans, I don't have to have pick sixes, but they should be able to walk away with like an interception and possibly a fumble or 2 interceptions. There should be multiple turnovers generated from this game by this defense. If there is 0 turnovers generated in this game, I have some questions about the viability of the defense going forward, because you have to create turnovers in this league. You just have to, especially when you have a quarterback like Ryan Tannehill, who can get a little streaky with his turnovers. So you got to start generating and getting a positive turnover margin going to be good in the NFL and considering the NFL.
Stoney's calling for the Bayard pick. So there you go. He's called his shot. I like that.
He's watched a lot of film, which will be out at stackingtheinbox.com and prep work for this game. And he says, says it right here. Watson forces deep balls to receivers that aren't that explosive. I'm calling it now. Bayard gets a pick in this game.
And he says, I need a TR Tart scoop and score. Here's what I'm calling. A Danico Autry strip sack. That's what I'm calling. Danico Autry strip sack.
So 2 things. The first thing is not the thing I was excited about, but it is still a good stat. Myles Garrett and the Browns have played the Houston Texans twice when Tim Kelly was the offensive coordinator. He's gotten half a sack in those two games, which I think against a Houston Texans offensive line, that's a good thing. To me, that screams Tim Kelly did a good job of protecting the quarterback in some form or fashion, right? Okay. I'll throw that out. I think that's very important. The other thing is that right now is the perfect time to play the Browns because all they're going to want to do if you're a ref is give a flag to Deshaun Watson this offense for him putting his hand twice on referees in the Monday Night Football game. They're going to be out for revenge. I guarantee you this will not be a straight up called game. These refs are coming for him. Every little hold, every little thing.
As an objective analyst, I don't love winning games that way. As a fan of a team, don't give a shit. take the win however you get it. Ed, here's what I'll do. I'll double down on calling my shot because he says no, B. Come on, you want an NWI game winner. Here's what I'll say. Nick Westbrook-Akine scores the game-winning touchdown on probably a pass in which he's standing in the end zone when he catches it, of course.
Yeah.
No yak. And a Danico Autry strip sack. Those are the two things I will call. And again, we'll talk SEC and there's some other games in the NFL I want to talk about. We are of course brought to you by Sinkers Beverage in the Kingston Group. I think there's a chance that Nick Folk kicks another game winner. I think this is low scoring. Again, I've mentioned it. I'm going to go I think the Titans win, but I think it's like 17-12.
Yeah. Nick Folk is the proof that Titans only need old kickers. Someone that already knows how to kick. So that way Craig Ackerman can't get in their head.
Can I ask you about broadly, do you not feel that with Nick Folk going 10 for 10, 7 of 7, and then 3 of 3 in extra points, Stonehouse is still pretty solid. Kearis Jackson seems to have maybe stabilized. At least he's not great, but he's stabilized the return game. Do you not feel like that they're in a better spot on special teams than they have been in a while, and that in a game like this, special teams could be a much bigger factor?
I think they're on solid ground, but that doesn't mean much. I feel like they have a solid returner, but they don't have a returner that's going to threaten anybody. I agree. But he's not going to cause mistakes.
I agree.
I feel like they have a great punter who has now gone from really long hang times and to allow his coverage to get in there to now really deep balls, and coverage is awful. The coverage unit is awful. And I feel like what you're saying is correct, but I feel like it's in a negative way. The fact that the Browns have returners that can probably really take advantage of that situation. Poor coverage units and Stonehouse outkicking his coverage. I think Nick Folk has shown that whatever the game plan is, whether it's to do touchbacks or whether it's to make them return it, he's gonna be able to do it. Whether it's kicking a field goal, he'll be able to do it. He has shown that. So my concern is coverage units, and that is a huge concern for the special teams. And I do not have the faith in the personnel, and I do not have faith in the coach.
Zach in the comments, not Zach on the show. I'm not reading that joke. I'm just not going to do it. But here's what I'll say. It strikes me as similar analogy to where your offensive line analogy. And even though I might disagree with where the analogy is, they went from one of the worst special teams units to like 20th. They're 18th or they're 21st or whatever. They've gone from really, really sucky to slightly below average, and that's still an improvement, right? And that's how you've been talking about the offensive line, I think, for the entire offseason. So,
and I agree.
All right, well, there you go. What other building your win? Brought to you by the Kingston Group. I want to glance at other games. If you've got another game you want to touch on, go for it. The only two teams in the AFC that are 2-0. We only have two teams in the AFC. Miami and Baltimore are 2-0. Baltimore will host Indianapolis.
With Anthony Richardson still in concussion protocol. So there's going to be another fake win for Baltimore. Yep. They are really good at getting fake wins. They've been like that for forever.
They all count. Baltimore, an 8-point favorite at home against Indianapolis, which again could move Baltimore to 3-0, but also could give the Colts another loss. Houston is a 9-point underdog at Jacksonville. I saw a little bit more life from CJ Stroud in the passing game last week for Houston. Jacksonville,
it came at inconsequential moments.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So I think we kind of know what Houston and Indianapolis are going to be this year, especially if Richardson can't play. But this is one of those where you're a 9-point favorite at home. If there's Jacksonville's got to win this game. Trevor Lawrence needs to play better if they want to, kind of keep up here. I just am keeping an eye on it. I think it's never too early to keep an eye on and root against. You want Houston to win this game. You're good with Baltimore. You want to take control of the division as soon as possible. They're playing all. Here's the thing. Sorry. They're playing all their division games now. Like all these teams are playing each other. The Titans have all their division games later.
Yeah, I look at it this way. Doug Peterson said it best, is that this slow starts can't happen in the NFL. Like they really can. They're very rare that slow starts or even terrible starts turn into something. I mean, nobody's really talking about how bad Trevor Lawrence was against a Chiefs team that gave up 3 turnovers. They had 3 turnovers. They had fumbles and all this stuff. And he couldn't get it done with a fully healthy pass catching weaponry. And now listen, he made some throws, but they were throws that were just slightly putting the receiver in a bad position to be able to come inside the end zone.
Right.
But those are that's thin margin of error throws that you expect a guy that everybody thinks is already elite to make. And nobody's talking about that Trevor Lawrence has looked pretty rough these first 2 weeks. I would say everything says he's below average, but I also don't think that the quarterback play is that great this year so far.
I was going to say there's a long list of guys that are really bad.
I feel like you can rank them 1 through 32, but really there's 20 people that are below average. There's only 12 good quarterbacks and there's 20 people below average. There is no average.
I will say this. I think the Chiefs defense is significantly improved. Just that's not to make an excuse for Trevor Lawrence. I just think that's an actual unit that's better.
That's a team that you're going to see, right? Like if you are going to be if you're going to be a contender, that's a team you have to show up against.
Yep. I think Kansas City is a more balanced football team this year than just being Mahomes heavy and Andy Reid offense. I think they're a little bit more balanced. So keep an eye on that. Miami got Jalen Waddle in concussion protocol as well. But again, that's the AFC picture. I just want to, I'm keeping an eye on stuff. Is there any other game you're looking at that you actually are just genuinely intrigued by?
Whatever game Puka Nakua's in. Give me all the Puka Nacua highlights.
Puka Nacua. Tutu Atwell playing well for the Rams.
Which is surprising as well. Like, where'd that come from?
Well, they who they playing? They've got a really good game this weekend, I feel like. Let me check my Puka lineup here and see if they're playing an interesting team. I can't remember why that.
The Bengals on Monday Night Football.
Yeah, that's an interesting rematch there at the Super Bowl. So, okay, you want to get into the SEC here?
Let's do it.
Sinkers Beverages, Kingston Group. You guys know the drill. All right. First and foremost, how worried are you about Alabama this weekend?
I'm oddly calm because I think that I think the reason that they didn't play Jalen Milroe was that they were like, let's take a week to see if there's any other better option. And there's no better time to do that than when you're playing this crappy team, right? So let's see what we got with Butchner, or Buckner, whatever his last name. It doesn't really matter. He shouldn't be on the team anymore.
He's not capable of playing SEC football.
Yeah. So let's see what we got in these guys, right? Let's see what they are. Let's see what we got.
So weird.
I think it's weird, but I think that was the idea behind it. And I think the reason that Jalen Milroe has come back in is like, well, he's a good teammate, blah, blah, blah. What was he doing? Like beating people up and hit people's socks with soap in them?
It's so weird. It's so weird.
It's such a weird situation that he created. I think that is what was going on in his head.
There are conspiracy theories that he was double secret probation suspended.
Well, maybe he was. Who knows?
So I don't know.
I feel like what they're gonna have to do, and they did it at the end of that game this past week. More Williams, more Rodell Williams, more running the football. Get back to basics. Make this a running football team first, and just beat the shit out of the other team. Like your run game is working. The fact that you didn't utilize your run game versus Texas more. You're not that team. You're not that Bryce Young team anymore. So I'm not panicked. I don't think people should be panicked because I think they're going to get back to being a mauling football team that wins some games, that wins games really big that way. I mean, they won a lot of games by high scoring margins by being a run-first football team.
Ironically, with the guy who played in the Super Bowl last year as their quarterback, Jalen Hurts in 2017. They won the national championship. I think what's interesting is that I don't think Ole Miss has the equipment to handle the style of game Alabama's going to make it this weekend. Jackson Dart's playing the best football of any quarterback maybe in the entire conference. They have the number one most efficient offense, but they are not running the football. They couldn't run the football against Tulane. Ole Miss could not run the football against Tulane. And so I like Alabama to play like a 24-3 kind of game. Like they probably don't keep Ole Miss's offense down that low, but I just think they're going to play a similar style of game to what you're talking about. And Jalen Milroe opens up the offense. I don't think Tommy Rees is particularly special. I don't think they're going to beat A&M on the road coming up. So I think there is some panic, but they could still absolutely win the division. So I think they beat Ole Miss. Now, if Ole Miss wins this game, that changes the perception of the entire conference. It changes the perception of the Alabama dynasty and Nick Saban, and it changes the perception of Lane Kiffin. Like it is a huge football game for both sides. I just think Alabama gets kind of back to basics, like you're saying, and wins this game.
And that's what they need to do. You know, I told you on Monday in a text when we were doing show prep, I was like, you know, I have a message. I have a solution. That's my solution. More Roydell Williams, more run game. Just get back to when Derrick Henry was throwing Manti Te'o out to go see his fake girlfriend out the stadium in championship games. Get back to where you had, you know, 3 running backs that were rushing for 100 yards in a game. Like that is how this Alabama team changes its whole 2023 outlook. Because right now there is not a quarterback on this team that you can let sling the ball 40 times a game and come back and win. You got to play in a world where all offenses are trying to score really fast. And score through the air. You need to pivot. It is time for them to pivot because we kind of talked about how the NFL is kind of cyclical, and you were talking about how the defense may have the advantage in most offensive, matchups. Here in the NCAA, I think the advantage is if you have a good running game and not like, triple option running game. If you have a really good running game and a quarterback that can make all the throws, even if they're not all accurate, and Jalen Milroe can do that, and he could be a part of the running game, I feel like that's how you have to win now. And I think that's the way to go. Like, I think that's how this Alabama team gets back on track. And if they don't do that, then they're in for a long season.
Yeah, and I think this actually, you could expand this conversation to include everybody in the SEC. Mm-hmm. Like Tennessee, Florida, why did it happen? Well, Florida ran the football traditionally with a very creative offense, and ETN was great. And the Vols could not. They got away from the running game in the first half. They got back to it in the second half, and they sort of started trying to creep back into the game. Arkansas hasn't had Rocket Sanders, and Arkansas struggled against their star tailback has been out. Quinshon Judkins for Ole Miss who's an All-American caliber running back, has been slowed down because injury, and the Ole Miss offensive line's been bad. I think offensive lines are bad. I think the quarterback play is questionable. I think offensive coordinators are new. Ironically, Tommy Rees might be qualified to do what you're saying, which is very Todd Downing-ish, actually.
Yeah.
Like run the ball on first down. But I don't have a lot of faith in Tommy Rees. I think he's got a lot to prove. LSU can do some stuff, but their running game kind of comes more from their quarterback, which is non-traditional. Missouri's not running the football. Georgia has had nobody healthy in their backfield at all. South Carolina has no offensive line at all. Like Kentucky maybe is the one team that's doing a pretty good job of balance with running the football, but they haven't played anybody. So I just think we still are collecting a lot of data in the SEC. The big one this week is, and I'm concerned about Tennessee. Like they need to put it on UTSA with Eddie Lee Marburger.
Good luck. You want to talk about pressing the panic button. I'm not ready to press. If you want to press the panic button on Tennessee's 2023 season, by all means do it. But I'm not pressing the panic button on the Josh Heupel, Coach Josh Dad thing. Because a lot of people are, of course, I think it's probably just for ratings and for clicks and listens and all that. They're like, oh, well, this could be the end. It was all Hendon Hooker. Hendon Hooker was the only reason that offense, succeeded. The offense has succeeded everywhere it goes. Just Joe Milton can't succeed in this offense because he can't succeed in an offense wherever he goes. That's why he's in his 6th year. But I think that whatever quarterback comes next, Nico and the quarterbacks after him, they'll succeed because they are Josh Heupel guys that he recruited heavily, and secured.
I agree. You guys know my stance on Joe Milton. I think he's fine. Yeah. I don't think he's going to be great. I think it's more about the fact that your all SEC left tackle Darnell Wright and your all SEC center Cooper Mays are not playing on the team right now. Yeah. One's in the NFL and one's injured. And I think the offensive line was a big concern as well. Equally as guilty was their tackling in space and their offensive line and Joe Milton's lack of control, the entire team's lack of composure. They need to get right because then they play South Carolina at home next week. Like Tennessee has to get right quickly. Auburn and A&M is a really, really awesome football game. Hugh Freeze and Bobby Petrino fired for texting and hanging out with escorts. The other one fired for a motorcycle crash, allegedly, because he was dating a girl in the facility and elevating her to positions. They're both back now, making their debut against each other. Not a coincidence, boys. Not a coincidence that they're there. And the reports out of Texas A&M are, so for those that don't know, the largest buyout in college football history is about $25 million. Jimbo Fisher's buyout's like $55 million at the end of the season, $60 million. It's a lot of money. The reports out of Texas are that they have the money should they need to make a decision at the end of the year. And this is one of those games that if you do not win in Hugh Freeze's 4th football game with an offense that is not particularly good, you're at home, you're favored. It looks like Petrino has fixed the offense with Connor Wigman, who I think is going to grow quickly into a star in this league. You lose this one, you're in deep, deep shit if you're Jimbo Fisher. So this is a really juicy football game from let's watch the sidelines at A&M. How's the culture look? Are they all together? Are they bought in? Or are they all starting to run away from Jimbo Fisher? So it's going to be fascinating to watch.
I think the panic button lies in Mississippi State right now. I think that's the panic button that you need to have because that was a horrible showing against LSU. Mm-hmm. And if you don't look better against South Carolina, then I understand certain coaches, get handed, drama or
tough situations.
And this is a tough situation for Mississippi State's head coach and really for all the players, because I'm sure that stings. That's still lingering, but this team should be performing better on offense than what it has been. It has a really good running back, which I really thought that they had a good chance of hanging with LSU, but LSU just blew them out. And they really got to step it up. And against a South Carolina team who probably has an equal amount of panic button on them, Spencer Rattler, Shane Beamer, and they're not going anywhere right now. So this is 2 teams at a crossroads, like Mike Vrabel's favorite choice. They're basically bone thugs and harmony in it, and they got to figure out what they're going to do.
It's absolute desperation bowl. South Carolina's 6-point favorite at home. You lose that game, you fall to 1-3 on the year.
I almost tempted Mississippi State +6, by the way. I don't know how you feel about that.
I'm not sure I'd touch that one because I think they're both desperate. Mississippi State would fall to 2-2. So the loser of this game is kind of like out of it already. And the winner, you get a boost, but that's a really desperate football game. Kentucky at Vanderbilt, cannot lose that game. You have to win that game if you're Kentucky and you want to be relevant. Missouri needs to show that that win last week against Kansas State was legit. They host Memphis in St. Louis in a neutral site. A lot of the players that Missouri recruits are from St. Louis, so it'll be a heavy.
Don't sleep on Memphis. They may be the best team in Tennessee.
That's only a 5.5. Easy there, soldier. It's a 5.5 point spread, so not Vegas is kind of with you on that. Like it's a close game. And a lot of this for me is how do coaches handle the human element? Mm-hmm. Josh Heupel needs to remove the mental side of last week, the composure and losing, the 20 years of drama. They got to get that out of their system. Like Missouri has to handle the success of beating Kansas State and get them back focused and not let down. Alabama, it's about removing the human element of 18 to 22-year-old emotional kids and keeping everybody focused every day and consistent. And that we're going to learn a lot about a lot of people this week in the SEC. So should be a great week. I don't think I'm missing any games. Florida's playing Charlotte. That's their heavy favorite in that one. I don't think I'm missing any. Oh, Arkansas LSU is interesting. Arkansas panic time as well. You lose at home to BYU, and then you get boat raced by LSU. That's a rough start to the season. So there's a lot of teams.
Arkansas is a big disappointment for me. I really thought they were going to be better than what they were.
A lot of teams pooped on themselves last week in the SEC. Mississippi State, Arkansas, Vanderbilt, Tennessee. Man, we shall see. We shall see. Okay. Sinkers Beverages, Kingston Group. You guys know the drill. BuildKG.com is the website for the Kingston Group. Go check them out. Football and Other F Words podcast. You've got stackingtheinbox.com. If you're gonna drink this weekend, just drink Sinkers Beverages or Bluegrass Beverages. Just Uber Eats. Search either one of them and have that booze delivered directly to your house.
They'll drive so you could drink.
There you have it. Thank you to all you guys who are in the comments. Please, if you are not watching or subscribed on YouTube, please give us a subscription. We do really, really appreciate it. For Zach, I am Braden. Have a great weekend, everybody. We will talk to you on Monday.